This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard on VSiN.
Mitch out all weekend on vacation. Pauly and the Moose all week on VSiN, the sports betting network. In pocket plays early coming up next because we have a double shot with Paul Charchian, AFC North player props, and what's going on with drafts, surprises, disappointments, who's hot, who's not, and strategy with fantasy coming up with Charch. What could have been, Moose, the Red Sox blasted the A's on Friday and then lost 2 in a row. So they were trying to win 11 straight series, which would have tied the franchise record in 1912. The A's would have lost 13 straight series, which would have equaled the franchise record, which was done in 1916. But they won 2 in a row. So funny thing about baseball, they are 8-33 since June 20th. Ugh. And the Red Sox now go with Sonny Gray. But for whatever reason, the Jays have had their number. They are 6-3 against them this year. And Boston has 7 losses since June 25th. 4 are to the Blue Jays. And the Jays,
that's crazy.
It isn't right. And the Jays have the most wins against the Red Sox this year. And Boston hasn't been able to get the bats going in those games. 0 or 1 run scored in 5 of the losses. But Boston's won 15 of their last 16 on the road. And the last time they won 16 of 17 on the road was 1939. Another one. Can Sonny Gray get the win? The last Red Sox pitcher to win 15 of his first 17 decisions, you had Pedro do it twice. Dice K did it. Clemens in 86 and Dave Ferris in 1945. Gray is 14-2. I can't believe it.
He's been great this year. He really has been. 2.78 ERA, the 106 strikeouts, the 1.1 whip. He's been fantastic. You look at his record on the road this year, he's pitching to a 3.14 ERA when you're looking at Sonny Gray as well. So he's been good home. He's been a good away. I mean, the benefit for Boston tonight is that Jameson Taillon goes for the Toronto Blue Jays, right, who is basically saying, the Chicago Cubs said mercy watching Jameson Taillon pitch all season long. And they were trying to trade for one starter after another. But it's amazing. It shows you, the Toronto Blue Jays could never get over. They've dealt with injuries. They're trying to figure out what happened with the power of Vlad Guerrero Jr. this season over the loss to the Dodgers in the World Series. And they have never gotten going at all this season. I would imagine that Sonny Gray tonight gets that 15th win coming into this one, 14-2 on the season.
Yep, I'm with you. And I think they are 0-2 this year against the Jays when Gray starts. That is funky. And the Jays start 13 in a row against the division, and they have a lousy record in the division. Rutschman could be back tomorrow. And if you want to play player props to fade Taillon, Yoshida and Abreu have been on fire, especially Abreu for Boston. The other one, how about the Mets? Where's this coming from? Oh. They won 5 of 6, and look at the offense. 6 plus runs in the 5 wins. Elder $1.40 at home against Scott. And Lindor has owned Elder hitting .460 career against him. Harris hitting .500 career against Scott. But how about the Mets all of a sudden?
Yeah, strange weekend in Pittsburgh, right? They lose a game on Saturday. I think the final score was 9-0. They had 3 hits. The next day, they score 11 runs. Really, that's crazy when you're looking at a span of 24 hours. But they played better. Paulie, they really have. Ewing's been really good. Benj is dealing with a little bit of a bone bruise in his wrist after making a catch Friday night for the New York Mets. But Christian Scott goes on the mound, and he's one of those guys that I would say, if you're looking at a completely lost season for the Mets, the top 2 starters, young starters, McClain and Scott, are who that organization is very, very excited about in 2027, if and when we do have baseball to go along with the 2 young outfielders. And Francisco Lindor has been remarkably streaky throughout the course of his career. And this season, obviously cut or hindered due to that calf injury, which caused him to miss a significant portion of the year. He's playing some of his better baseball as of late. So I wouldn't be all that surprised if you get a well-pitched game tonight by Christian Scott down in Atlanta against the Braves. And they played a lot better baseball. I think it comes down to, everybody knows who's gone is gone. We've passed the MLB trade deadline. No one's on pins and needles. And now you're looking at a team that has been dreadful, that goes to the ballpark with little to no expectations on any given night.
That's a lot of respect for Scott. That Elder's only $1.40. Atlanta's won 9 in a row at home and 11 of 12, and they have the second best home record in all of baseball behind the Rays. That's surprising with that number, like this one. So who has the edge here? Kramer, who was just traded 9 days ago, starts against his former team. Do the Orioles know Kramer, or does Kramer know his team? Now, he's 1-4 with an ERA of 6. So he's going against the Orioles. It's Rogers for Baltimore. They're 7-1 in his last 8 starts. He's got a 1.99 ERA. I can't believe the price here. $1.05 in this game.
Yeah, the Twins are right there trying to compete for a playoff spot in that wide open average American League Central, and decided to add at the MLB trade deadline, not pair off. If you ask, Paul, I would tell you that it probably favors the Orioles more than it favors Dean Kramer. And you ran through it. Kramer hasn't been particularly good this year either. That's been another issue. Yes. And Rogers has been. So for the Baltimore Orioles, and you highlighted the numbers in how well he's pitched as of late and how well they've supported him as well. So I think that's where the price is where the price is. Obviously, Minnesota's got a lot more to play for than the Baltimore Orioles do, but the pitching matchup tonight out in Minnesota does favor the road team.
I'm shocked by that. Now, he did pitch as well his first time out with Minnesota, but it's been a lousy year for Kramer, and Rogers has been awesome for Baltimore going back, and the Twins are in a funk. Speaking about a funk, how about Andrew Painter gets the ball for the Phillies? I see runs here, total of 9 in St. Louis against Dobbins. Painter is 1-8 with an ERA of 6.48, and they've lost his last 7 appearances. That's something we've discussed for weeks here on the show. The big 3 are awesome. When it's Luzardo, Sanchez, and Wheeler, their record's great. When it's anybody else, it's a disaster.
Yeah, it is. You're 100% correct, and I agree with you. I would take the over in the game. I think the Philadelphia Phillies, in their last 3 games, when they dropped 2 or 3 against the Toronto Blue Jays, they scored 16 runs in that series. So they obviously added Luis Arraez at the MLB trade deadline from the San Francisco Giants. You saw Harper obviously transition, play a little bit of outfield. He wants to try and win Dombrowski, an aggressive general manager down there in Philadelphia. But I'd be more favorable in taking the over in this game, sitting with the total at 9.5 than I would take either one of the 2 sides.
Good article up by Buster Olney. And we talked about Aaron Judge earlier in the big comments that he made over the weekend that he's coming back. How about Boston? If they're playing like this and you get Roman Anthony and Crochet back, an update, expected return date, Olney writes, no one really knows, but at least there's progress. Anthony began a swing progression before the end of July and is hitting off a pitching machine, and Crochet's progress has been even slower. It would happen in late April, but he started throwing again last week, and he still has several steps to clear. But that'd be a team that's won 32 of 39. If they could get these guys back, or at least one of them, what a shot in the arm that would be.
Oh, it'd be insane. I mean, at one point in time, Boston was dead. There were 14 games under 500. I mean, we're sitting here on this Monday, they're 11 over. And it is, if they're able to get both of those players back and they're able to be at peak form, and I know that's a big time if, the Boston Red Sox, and if they should ever win the World Series, I mean, it's the stuff that you see in the movie theater, getting the popcorn out and having your favorite Coca-Cola or whatever it might be. I mean, this is stuff that they draw up out there in Hollywood and Los Angeles. So, it's been remarkable. I never saw it coming. I never saw them having the July that they had, which was the best record in Major League Baseball. I think it really all started when they swept the Yankees up at Fenway Park. They all of a sudden started believing themselves. And now if they're able to get both of those guys back and they're both able to play at a really high level, Boston's going to be that much stronger come October. For the Cubbies, Edward Cabrera out since late June. He made a second rehab start Wednesday, went 4 innings and hit 99 on the gun. Also, how about that? I forgot about this guy. And we're buying the snakes, as you said earlier. Corbin Burns underwent Tommy John surgery in June of 2025, then a strain in his shoulder 12 months later. There's been progress throwing off the mound, told reporters he could be back before the end of August and trending toward a rehab assignment. That would be big as well if they can get him back. And there was another guy, too.
Well, I mentioned Snell goes tomorrow. Glasnow maybe by the end of the month. Will Smith in September. And Joe Musgrove for the Friars. Long, frustrating road back from Tommy John surgery in October of 2024. On August 2nd, nearly 22 months after repairing his UCL, he pitched in a pro game. It was for the Class A affiliate in a rehab assignment, and it went well. Maybe they could something could happen there. But you forget about these guys when they have Tommy John and how long they're out. But there's going to be two big pieces coming back for some of these teams, especially if the Snakes can get Burns back.
Yeah, no doubt. And Musgrove always draws the ire of Met fans because of that wild card game where he had these shiny ears. And everyone thought he was loaded up the baseball on that cold night out there in Queens. So it'd be great. I mean, you never see, obviously, it's a long, whenever you undergo Tommy John surgery. And it's also not a matter of just getting back on the mound, but then it's a matter of how you can use the pitcher as well, especially with the way that pitchers are, coddled, so to speak, especially coming off that kind of a surgery. But good to see guys back on the mend and potentially returning to help teams try and get into the October playoff picture and what is, in some places, really, really wide open.
Sign up for the VSiN Pro today and get both our NFL and college football betting guides packed with team previews, power ratings, proven betting systems, and best bets from the top guys at VSiN. Help you bet smarter all season long. Every best bet, every host, every guest. Real-time betting splits, AI-powered prop projections, the new MLB player props, plus 24/7 video on the VSiN Watch app. Start today just $9.99 or get a full year and save 50% with a VSiN Pro annual subscription. Head to VSiN.com/subscribe now. VSiN.com/subscribe. What we're betting coming up next in Pocket. Follow the money. The Sports Betting Network on VSiN.
To determine the winner of any given college basketball game.
Someone gives you 10,000 to 1 on anything. You take it. Take it. Take it.
I bet you $20 I can get you gambling before the end of the day. No way. I'll give you 3-1 odds. Nope. 5-1. Nope. 10-1. You're on.
All right, the baseball was fun on Friday. 2 winners. One was easy with the Guardians, and it was a Malinsky special fading the White Sox as well. And we couldn't get the over in the Fever Sky game, and Carrington got the heave-ho earlier. How about that? Did you see that foul? Hitting Cunningham upside the head on the layup? I couldn't believe that.
And how about the Fever coach not defending her player? I mean, that was Stephanie White. That was crazy as well.
Yes.
I mean, it was insane. What's going on in the WNBA?
I know. It's always something, right? But she got the heave-ho, and the Fever made it interesting before they hung on and won late, but we couldn't get the over in there, so we're 2-1 over the weekend. That's the graded. Go to the new place. I'm going to go with Rays tonight, $1.45 with Freddie. Now, the A's have got to be smelling themselves, feeling good. That they just took 2 out of 3 and finally won a series. The long national nightmare's over. They won a series for the first time since mid-June. And now they got to go all the way back and travel to Sacramento. The last time that happened, they got their asses kicked. Oh, by the way, you're taking on a team that's on fire. That's won 15 of 19 and 6-0 on this road trip with back-to-back sweeps. I know it was ugly for Freddie, and I like your play coming up, but I think the Rays get it done, and we'll get to Lopez tonight. Dolphins under 4.5 wins, under -160. I'm with Todd. Love my Baxter. I think right along with Arizona. You're not breaking news here. 2 worst teams in the league. But a good write-up by Adam Chernoff that he thinks only maybe 1 or 2 wins. And bet alts on the Dolphins that this won't work out, signing Willis. No weapons, and he's going to be forced to play from behind, which is not good for Willis. You also have Hafley taken over with a new coach and a total rebuild with the Dolphins, and hard to see 5 wins there with that roster. And let's go to Thursday night. The late game. 6 preseason games. This open pick. Tennessee is up to 3 or 2.5. There's 3s at BetMGM or DraftKings. I'm going to go Titans money line. You have the new coach angle with Salah. And you got that 60% the last 5 years. you have these 10-3 in the preseason. What new? A plethora of injuries with San Francisco. And here's what I like. A backup quarterback battle in Tennessee. Yeah. Behind Ward, you have Trubisky and Will Levis fighting it out. And Levis said, I'm one of the best 32 quarterbacks in the league. Well, he's got to go out there and prove it as he tries to hold off and try to beat out Trubisky. So I got a lot of Trubisky and a lot of Will Levis, guys who've started a lot of games in the NFL, going against the 49ers who don't care. And I think the new coach angle, I think Tennessee gets the win on Thursday in one of the 6 games. Great to have football back. Good luck.
As far as my plays go, I'm gonna go from a different angle when you're looking at Rays and A's tonight out there in Sacramento. I'm gonna take the over 10.
Yes.
Because Peralta's been terrible with the Mets, terrible initial start with Tampa. I think it's gonna take a while for the Rays to go out there and figure him out. And get him back to the pitcher he was with the Milwaukee Brewers, Pauly. So I think you're going to get runs. And it's, you've seen a lot of runs get scored out there in Sacramento as well. So the number's sitting at 10. Give me Rays and A's tonight, over 10 out there in Sacramento. And I got some team totals for you. We talked about the Giants early. There's a lot of optimism down in East Rutherford about Big Blue this year. The total is sitting there at 7.5. You and I are going to go opposite ways here. I know you like the under when you're looking at Big Blue. The only concern I have is everybody and their mother is picking the Giants as being that trendy team in the NFC. So, but I think there's a lot to like. Offensive line's going to be good. Dart year 2, Harbaugh year 1. Coaching matters in the NFL. Give me the over 7.5. I'm going to take the over Jets 5.5 victories. Now, I don't think they're all of a sudden going to be a contending team. It's a low bar that they have to clear. Geno Smith is by far better than Justin Fields. Frank Reich is going to have a huge impact in terms of a play caller, that offense. Garrett Wilson, positive things when you look at the tight end room, the offensive line, like the fact that Breece Hall was signed to a 3-year extension in the offseason. Give me the Jets. Can't be as bad as it was last year. They were historically bad in the month of December. Give me over 5.5 wins for the Jets. Rams over 11.5. Listen, we've talked about it. They are the overwhelming favorite. Chasm between them and everybody else in the National Football League. They're remarkably talented. They might get Aaron Donald back, and that's really kind of where the lean is right now along that defensive line. But unless Stafford goes down to injury, I'm going to go over 11.5 wins for the Los Angeles Rams. The Falcons, you and I, Pauly, are in agreement on this one. Coaching matters. Stefanski says a much better head coach than Raheem Morris. If they get decent quarterback play, you love Bijan Robinson. I think the defense is good enough. A wide open division they're in. Give me over 6.5 wins when you look at the Atlanta Falcons. And I think the road's going to be a little tenuous when you look at Jesse Minter, year 1, taking over for Harbaugh down there in Baltimore. I think there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, a little bit of adjustment as well. They're a little bit old and long in the tooth as well. Give me under 11.5 wins for the Baltimore Ravens. I think they could finish the season at 11-6. I just don't think they're going to get themselves to 12.
Very good. Excellent. Reaching out to over 500 sources is bettors worldwide across all sports and sending it out to subscribers in real time. It's a sharp place. Exclusive data feeds from the 4 major books. All of it filtered and sorted by version 6.0 of their AI model. Thousands of sharp bettors and pro syndicates tracked in real time before the markets move. And the receipts, every play logged, every result public. Records back to 2011, live logs since 2021. All feeds a live performance terminal. Check it out anytime, no login, no paywall. Record gets audited daily. No steam chasing, no stale trends, no recycled plays. Follow the sharp money at sharpplays.com. 6 games Thursday in the NFL. Cincinnati is up to 7 against the Lions at BetMGM, South Point, and DraftKings. Bridgewater retires. They just signed Dobbs. Campbell's been lousy in the preseason anyways, and Detroit's on a bad run going back. It's Luke Altmaier who's going to get the majority of the snaps, the undrafted rookie for the Lions. It's open 3.5. That's why it's up to 7 with the Teddy news. And the Lions 2-9 straight up in ATS going back in the crazy to see a number that high right off the bat in the preseason that the Bengals are up to 7. And some money today on Seattle. It's anti-Dallas since 2008, 7-24 straight up in the preseason. Schottenheimer livid at, I guess, the lack of enthusiasm and issues they've had at practice so far. Also good to back the champs with Darnold, Locke, and Milroe with their quarterback rotation. and how the Cowboys don't care. The early game Saturday, they took over money with the Giants and the Vikings, 38.5 up to 40 with this total. And you have to love both quarterback rotations. With the Giants, it's Dart, Winston, and Allen. And with the Vikings, it's Murray, McCarthy, and Wentz. That is strong there. So that's what came in, and some numbers have been moving. And anti-Atlanta on Friday night. Denver is 5.5 at BetMGM and DraftKings, where Denver's got a good quarterback rotation with Nix, Stidham, and Ellinger. But with Atlanta, they don't have a quarterback. And they had to sign they just signed who was Cooper Rush. They just signed Cooper Rush. Because you don't have Tua and Penix, and it's Jack Strand, whoever that is, for their other quarterback as well. And Stefanski hasn't done well in the preseason, going back his last couple of years in Cleveland as also. So that's a couple things going on with the preseason. Get up to the website, vsin.com. Humans has the article up with his quarterback depth charts for the preseason, which you need. He also has a good breakdown. Remember what happened last year? The first 16 games, we saw average scores of 45 points a game. So tie that into what happened with the Hall of Fame game as well. So that was crazy, where we've seen so many points and how it started out week one of the preseason. It was bizarre, with games averaging 45 points out of the gates.
Yeah, it's crazy, especially when most reports you get out of these training camps is that the defense is ahead of the offense, but when you're going up against opponents, sometimes it doesn't necessarily play out that way. And I think you also have to look at the way that training camps are being run now and how preseason games are being used by teams too. And I think that's where you have to judge intent. You mentioned about Campbell in Detroit. Like it's not necessarily about week one of the preseason, right? There's a game plan and kind of a lead to get the best out of this team when the regular season does get going. So I think the interesting thing when you look at Schottenheimer down there in Dallas with what he had to say was last year, all the reports coming out of Cowboy camp was how refreshing it was, how he was a culture changer and everybody loved it and it, had the energy and everything like that. So interesting to hear that stuff coming out of Dallas camp here with an offense that's expected to be really good, massive changes from a personnel and from a coaching perspective on the defensive side of the football for the Dallas Stars. So we'll see exactly how it does play out. But I think in these preseason games, you have to be a little careful. Got to make sure you have all the information in terms of who's playing, who's not, and the intentions of the teams going into the game as far as what they want to get out of the game.
Money coming against the Commanders as Dan Quinn has done poorly and didn't care in his tenure at Atlanta. That's money coming in on the Dolphins. And Atlanta 6-1 straight up going back. Cleveland 2-6 straight up. And Harbaugh, your guy. What happens with the Giants? 47-17 straight up in ATS. Incredible record in the preseason. Yeah. Double shot. Paul Charchian up next. We'll start with AFC North player props.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Football's here, our weekly spot with Paul Charchian, Fantasy Football Hall of Famer. He joins us now on the Progressive Guest Line. Follow him on X as well. Any question you might have, he's the guy with fantasy, and we'll talk about what's going on with drafts in the second segment and some strategy as well. We did the NFC North when you were in studio. AFC North today, some player props, my man. How about Denzel Boston, the rookie, what he can do for the Browns?
Yeah, I'm really interested in what Denzel Boston can do. And our goal here, I'm going to try to give a futures bet for every team in the NFL between now and the start of the season. So we've done the NFC North. Now we're doing AFC North. Let's talk about rookie receiver Denzel Boston. 6 or more receiving touchdowns pays plus 250. 8 or more touchdowns pays plus 750. And offensive rookie of the year is even in play here at 35-1. Let's address this. Obviously, the Browns quarterback situation, totally diseased. Shedeur versus Watson versus Gabriel. Nobody cares. This is the least compelling quarterback training camp battle ever. Don't care who really wins. But because those quarterbacks are so lackluster, we're getting really strong value on a player who is built for touchdowns. You remember, Denzel Boston's one of the 2 early draft picks that the Browns put into the wide receiver position. KC Concepcion being the other one. Concepcion was taken first, Boston being a little bit overlooked because of that. But remember, he went early second round. He's born to score touchdowns. And this is a touchdown bet, over 6 and over 8 touchdowns. At Washington, Boston scored 11 touchdowns last year. He scored 9 touchdowns the year before that. He's got a tall, rangy build. He's 6'4", 212 pounds. Not physically gigantic like, say, DK Metcalf, but he uses all those traits to come down with tough catches. When the ball is in the air, Denzel Washington believes it is his ball. It is his catch to be made. And I love that. He boxes out defenders. He shields them from the ball. He makes contested catches with his ultra-strong hands. Those are the exact traits you want in a goal-to-go receiver. And that's why I like Boston to top 6 touchdowns and 8 touchdowns, because I think he's going to get 4, maybe 5 scores just from goal-to-go situations. There's not a lot of other Browns to target in that spot. And you look at Boston already playing with Cleveland's first-string offense. I think he's a week 1 starter for the Browns. He's going to nuke Cedric Tillman into the molten center of the earth. That guy's career's on life support.
Yeah.
And new head coach Todd Monken, total wild card, offensive coordinator in Baltimore. He never had a go-up-and-get-it guy like Denzel Boston. But Monken did in Tampa Bay when he was offensive coordinator there. He had Mike Evans for 3 years, and Evans scored 25 touchdowns. Now, Mike Evans is a Hall of Famer, and I'm not saying Denzel Boston is, he's just a rookie. I'm not saying he's going to be Mike Evans. Point being, you roll that together, I like the opportunity for Denzel Boston to top 6 receiving touchdowns, maybe 8. And even if you want to go crazy, for a team that's going to be losing a lot and throwing plenty, offensive rookie of the year pays 35-1
yes.
on Denzel Boston.
A+ break.
Love it.
Good stuff.
How about let's go out to Pittsburgh.
By the way,
what's your take on
while we're talking D Bostons? Do you guys remember, because I've inadvertently called him David Boston before. Do you guys remember the 2000 era Cardinals receiver, David Boston?
Yeah.
Mr. Muscles.
Yeah, no kidding. He was on the good stuff.
Mr. Muscles. That's right. 8th overall pick. Do you remember his famous training camp situation in which he informed the Cardinals defenders that they needed to be gentle with him because of his pierced nipples? They were very tender. And the Cardinals defenders were getting a little handsy with him up around here, and he didn't like that.
I don't remember that.
That's what I always remember about David Boston.
Okay. I remember the arms. I don't remember that one.
True story.
I don't remember that, but that's a great story. I love it. Out to Pittsburgh. How about Aaron Rodgers? What's your take? McCarthy, year 1, Pittman in at wide receiver. Obviously, you got DK Metcalf. Yep. What's your take on what we're going to see from Aaron Rodgers this year in Pittsburgh?
I'm going to go under 3,150 yards. Now, 3,150 yards is a low number. It's not the lowest in the NFL for starting quarterbacks, but it's among the lowest. That would be 200 yards less for Aaron Rodgers than he threw for last year. Now, how are we going to make up those 200 yards? Well, he's been an Iron Man, but I got to factor injury into my calculation. He's 42 years old. He'll turn 43 during the season. He could pumpkin this season. And if Aaron Rodgers misses just one more game than last year, there's your 200-yard differential from last year's yardage total, and now he's sitting at the under 3,150 for yards. Aaron Rodgers, here's the biggest thing you know about Aaron Rodgers and how his game has changed. He's turned into a dump-off quarterback, and maybe the league's biggest dump-off quarterback outside of Tua. Last year, Aaron Rodgers, career lows in basically every stat that involves downfield passing. Intended air yards per pass, completed air yards per pass, and maybe the most troubling, get this, completed air yards per completion, just 3.7 yards downfield. How are you completing passes at only 3.7 yards downfield? Point being, Aaron Rodgers' arm is legendary, one of the greatest of all time, but at 42, turning 43, maybe this arm is finally pretty much cooked. He's going to be settling for dump-offs, and dump-off passes just don't fill box scores. And I'm going to mention this as an intangible for the under as well. He has said this is his final year.
Mm-hmm.
All these football players, they're in pro athletes, they're so wired to be competitive. Maybe, just maybe, that little thing in the back of his mind about retirement is going to be pinging away at the back of his mind. A retirement mindset that sets in. Even for a future obvious Hall of Famer like Aaron Rodgers, we're going to take under 3,150 passing yards.
Beautiful. Paul Charchian, our guest, Fantasy Football Hall of Famer. Follow him on X. He's on the Progressive Guest Line. Follow the money, Pauly and Moose, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Okay, a lot of hype with the Bengals. And Burrow has won more than 9 games only twice in his career. But there could be a ton of points in offense that can do. You want to do everything over with Chase Brown. Take it away.
All right. Well, Mark, you didn't see this all last preseason, but Mitch and I would come on VSiN last preseason and talk up Chase Brown every chance we had. We were really excited about the opportunity for Chase Brown last year. None of it hit, and mostly because Joe Burrow got hurt again. And I'd like to think, Mitch and I weren't wrong. We were just a year too early. I'm ready to be hurt again by Chase Brown this year. We're going to go over 824 rushing yards. He was a 1,000-yard rusher last year. Over 5.5 rushing touchdowns. That's it. And by the way, when we finally get to the point where we can make some bets for total yardage, you should look into that as well. I'm not seeing a lot of total yardage stuff for Chase Brown yet. A lot of the same talking points as last year for Chase Brown, but this time, hopefully, Joe Burrow playing a full season, making good on all this. Last year, Chase Brown played 4 full games with Joe Burrow. That put him in those 7 full games. I said 4. It was 7 full games. He was on pace for 17 game totals of 1,100 rushing yards, 500 receiving yards, and 20 touchdowns. That's what Chase Brown was doing in games with Joe Burrow. Because Joe Burrow's on the field, he's throwing the ball, of course, to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Defenses have to respect the passing game so much. It really opens up a lot of opportunity for Chase Brown, who, by the way, no competition at the running back position at all. Most of our viewers right now could not name any other running back on the Bengals, and I don't blame you for forgetting about Samaje Perine and Taj Brooks. Those guys are zero threats here. Also, Chase Brown hasn't missed a game yet as a pro. He's been an Ironman through 3 seasons so far. We love that about Chase Brown as well. And I'll give you a couple other items. Bengals have the 3rd easiest schedule by last year's winning percentage. They have the 2nd easiest schedule by this year's Vegas win totals. Chase Brown over 825 rushing yards and 5.5 rushing touchdowns.
Can you sneak in more
quickly?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Moose. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, how about Mark Andrews? We got about 90 seconds left. How about Mark Andrews down in Baltimore?
All right.
With
Well,
Lamar?
this is short, and this is my least favorite of the bunch. Over 6.5 receiving touchdowns. He's top 5 touchdowns every season since his rookie year. He's just got to find 2 more touchdowns to top the 5 he had last year. And it comes from Isaiah Likely's departure. He vacates 56 targets and an average of 5 touchdowns per year over the last 3 seasons. Andrews' new backup is Durham Smythe, who's purely a blocking tight end. So you figure with Likely gone, if Andrews would have had the same 5 touchdowns he had last year, gets Isaiah Likely averaging 5 more touchdowns. That's how we get to the over 6.5 receiving touchdowns for Mark Andrews.
Total pro. Well done. Excellent. Phenomenal breakdown. Love it. And up next, we'll kick around. Do you take elite tight ends? How early? What's going on with quarterbacks in the draft? And then some of these new players with new teams. DJ Moore, Waddle, Willis, where they're going and what we think they can do from a fantasy standpoint as well. It's his weekly visit. Paul Charchian's back. Football's back. Fantasy Football Hall of Famer. Tweet at him or email as well if you have any questions for Charch as we talk fantasy every week now and try to run through a prop from every team before we get to the season. So we'll kick around what's happening in drafts and advice and strategy coming up on Follow the Money, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Welcome back. More with Paul Charchian. We had a good fun with all the props that he gave out earlier. Now it's time to talk strategy. That time of year again with fantasy drafts. Charch is always right. You got to do it in person. You got a good way to stay in touch. If it's the only time you see each other once a year, so be it. Do the fantasy drafts in person. What's going on with quarterbacks in fantasy drafts so far, Hall of Famer?
I've been doing this a long time. I've never seen the position devalued in fantasy drafts as much as it is this year. And we're seeing Josh Allen is the first quarterback going in the first 3 rounds. He's going round 3. The next quarterback up in most drafts, Lamar Jackson, isn't going until round 5. And if you're in a 10-team league, the 10th quarterback going off the board right now is Dak Prescott. He's going in round 10. I mean, you can now wait this long to get your starting quarterback. And if you want to wait, even if you want to go to that next tier of guy, like Jared Goff or Trevor Lawrence or Justin Herbert, those guys, we're talking rounds 12, 13, 14. There's never been a better year, I think, to be at one of the ends of that movement. Either you take a quarterback you love, like Drake May or Joe Burrow, that could be sitting on big seasons. You think Jaden Daniels is going to bounce back. These are guys at this level that are normally going second round. Now you can get these guys 4th round, 5th round, 6th round, get them there. Or if you decide you're just going to slough that position, you can slough it like never before. 14th round, go get your starting quarterback. Go take Jordan Love. There's a lot of opportunity because there's so many good quarterbacks. People are looking at this going, I'm 18 deep. 18th quarterback's Baker Mayfield. I can do that. I can go to Baker Mayfield. He could be sitting at 4,500 yards and 28 touchdowns. That works for me. So this is the year that you slough the quarterback position more than any other year that we've seen so far.
Charlie, I want to ask you, Paul, about a couple receivers in new spots. What's your take, or who has the bigger impact when you look at Waddle in Denver, Moore in Buffalo?
Yeah, like them both a lot. I've got Moore sitting at wide receiver 15. I got Waddle at 19. Both guys are in a nice position. The differential between those two is the quarterback, right? Josh Allen versus Bo Nix. Well, let's talk DJ Moore for a minute first. Walks in now as the go-to receiver for a team that's desperate for a go-to receiver and hasn't had one really since Stephon Diggs left. And I don't know the team has regret about letting Diggs go because of all the other stuff that goes with Stephon Diggs that no team wants to sign up for, going all the way back to the Vikings. But they haven't been able to replace him. DJ Moore walks into that spot and almost assuredly becomes a huge part of that offense. Love him here. He goes off the board in late 2nd, early 3rd rounds of drafts, and I think that's appropriate for him. For Jalen Waddle, he's flying below the radar to a great degree. That's another team where that Denver wide receiver group have churned a lot of young players through. Waddle brings just experience to the position that I think ultimately Bo Nix is going to really love to have. And he probably separates from all the rest of the receivers, even though there are some other Denver receivers that I like, younger receivers that I think ultimately are going to be pretty darn good. Waddle is going to walk in and make an immediate impact there. Wide receiver, you can get him, wide receiver 19 on my list. You can get him in the 5th round of fantasy drafts and don't have to sweat whether or not it's going to be like Marvin Mims or Pat Bryant or Troy Franklin. Guys like that have been rotating around. Cortland Sutton's still there as well. But Waddle gives you more of an explosive playmaker that they just haven't been able to get consistent production from to this point.
I believe you've been saying this for years. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're always of the mindset take an elite tight end early. Is that still true this year?
Yeah. This is the year I'm changing my tune. And never let it be said that I'm so stubborn that I will not change my mind on a year-to-year basis. Usually at this time of year, I'm saying, just go get a great tight end and don't have to play that game every week where you're like, oh my God, is Dallas Goedert going to give me like 2 catches for 30 yards? Please just don't get shut out. Or you're starting Brenton Strange and keeping your fingers crossed, or Hunter Henry or whatever. Like, just go get your guy. But this year's different. There's so many good young tight ends. Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, Tyler Warden, Colston Loveland, even Kyle Pitts is only in his 5th year. Harold Fannin was great last year. Tucker Kraft, assuming he comes back from the ACL. Sam Laporta. There's so many good young tight ends. Isaiah Likely is really promising. We're so deep in tight ends. This is the year I'm flipping the narrative. I'm saying wait on the tight end position because the 10th best tight end off the board, Sam Laporta. I'm ready to go to war with Sam Laporta. Maybe it's Mark Andrews. Nobody else in Baltimore. We just talked last segment. Mark Andrews went over 6.5 touchdowns. It's so deep in tight ends. George Kittle, you can get him round 8. And then if you need to, you can take a depth guy behind him in Jake Tungus. if you just want to make sure that, in case George Kittle's not ready for week 1, you can just go to Tongas, who gives you 80% of Kittle's production. So there's a lot of options at tight end. If there's a year you're going to just skip it and just wait, this is the year to do that.
Charch, I want to ask you about a player up in Minnesota, and that being Justin Jefferson. How much does the quarterback situation up in Minnesota affect the value of where you're comfortable taking Jefferson, who, if he has a quarterback, is right there as the best receiver in the league, but he's got Murray and McCarthy up there in Minnesota?
Yeah, and in Minnesota training camp, both guys have been very inconsistent. Not a big, kind of expected, honestly. Kyler Murray's never played in an offense like this before, so you figured that it would take him a while to learn this new offense. He's been up and down. J.J. McCarthy up and down. Jefferson right now going middle of the second round. I think that's fair. I mean, middle of the second round is better, way better than he actually was last year, but the quarterbacking one way or another should be better. So, if you're looking where Jefferson's going, your other receiver options in that range, Rashee Rice, George Pickens, Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, those are guys that have all got some degree of question marks as well. So, where Jefferson's going, he was, a year ago, we were talking about him in the middle of the first round. The year before that, he was the first player taken in fantasy drafts. So an enormous talent, obvious big question marks. The assumption here is that Kevin O'Connell is going to find his way to good quarterback production one way or another.
Okay. I want to get to as many guys as possible. How about what with Luther Burden's going? What do you think of him and Montgomery now changing teams?
Yeah, Luther Burden, every year there's like this hot young player that everybody wants to be in on first. And you want to be known as the guy who saw Luther Burden coming. And he has been the hot name going back to mini camps. You look at the kinds of things that Ben Johnson is saying about him that are just over the moon about Luther Burden. And then also, Burden is not going to play only the slot, but he'll play the slot a fair amount. You look at what Ben Johnson was able to do with Amon-Ra St. Brown running out of the slot. You're like, I'll take some of that, please. Burden's value will get shifted around a little bit now that he's got a groin injury that's expected to keep him out for the rest of training camp. Mm-hmm. They're saying as of today that Burden's going to be back. The expectation is that it'll be available for week 1. Hopefully that's the case. Groin injuries re-injure all the time. You have to be careful. But right now, going off the board is wide receiver 24. He had been moving up into the closer to 20. That puts him at the 3rd, 4th round for a guy who has proven very little at this point, but people want the excitement there. And I do too. I want Luther Burden on my team. I'm buying the hype. I do want to be that guy that gets him first. The skill set's amazing. He reminds me of a slightly thinner Deebo Samuel as somebody that is powerful despite a smaller stature. He's got big moves and can break tackles. He can catch the ball inside and outside. Burden could be a special talent. And you just love everything. Everybody wants a piece of anything Ben Johnson touches.
I want to ask you about Walker out in Kansas City. Brilliant last year for Seattle. Is he just as good from a fantasy perspective this year with the Chiefs?
Marc, he's going to be way better. Wow. Way better, because the Chiefs are going to utilize him in a way that Seattle never did. He was always in a timeshare with Seattle. That for whatever, and maybe fairly so, because he broke down a lot and there's a lot of nagging injuries for Kenneth Walker. But here's the thing. Walker's freaking awesome. And not just in the Super Bowl where he just mowed over the Patriots. He's always been a tier 2 talent. I don't think he's Bijan Robinson and Christian McCaffrey, Jahmyr Gibbs, but he's at that next level. He's a really good back that has only suffered because they just didn't use him enough from a fantasy standpoint. Now, Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes trying to come back off ACL and LCL. Kenneth Walker's looking at a big, big role, including at the goal line. Isaiah Pacheco's gone. He is going to get a high level of utilization in that Andy Reid offense. And, people might be like, well, Andy Reid running backs don't do very much. Well, he hasn't had a really good running back since Kareem Hunt version 1.0, and he used Kareem Hunt all the time. And Kenneth Walker can catch, too. Also, an underutilized trait. I love Kenneth Walker. He's my number 7 ranked running back. You're in the beginning of the second round of your fantasy drafts. He's absolutely in play. It's him and Chase Brown, to me, and Devon Achane right in that area where you can pick your favorite of those guys. I like all of them to potentially have big seasons, including Kenneth Walker.
Excellent job, my man. Good to talk to you. We'll catch up next week. Appreciate it.
Tons of fun.
It was. Good breakdown.
Got it. Bye-bye.
Don't go anywhere. VSiN Primetime with Matt Humans and Tim Murray up next. followed by Cashing Out with Dustin Sweetelson at 11 p.m. Great job, Mo. See you tomorrow.